to the Indie Pod podcast. I'm your host, Super Joe Pardo, and we have an episode for all of you business people out there this week, talking about expanding your business through your podcast. And I have a great guest for that. But before we get started, before we jump into that, before I introduce my guest to my left, your right, pop in the chat if you're watching live. Pop in the chat where you're listening from. Would love to find out where everybody's listening from tonight here on the Facebook live stream. If you feel so inclined, we would love to have you join us September 24th to the 26th at Indie PodCon. It's in the Philadelphia, Swedesboro, New Jersey area. And it is going to be a great time. If you want to save 10% off, if you missed the Black Friday deal, I feel bad for you. You missed 25% off, but you can still get 10% off if you use offer code IPP at indiepodcon.com/register. Oh, what else is there? If you missed the announcement 2 weeks ago, because last week was Thanksgiving, so I didn't get the record last week. But if you missed the announcement, we have a merch store. You can go to indiepodcon.com/shop. I should probably set up a 10% off for people who watch or listen to this show. Maybe I'll get around to that before the end of this show. If I do, then I will be announcing it. If not, it'll be next week. I'll have to put it on my to-do list. Let's see. If you this is probably the last week I'll mention this, the MapCon 5 vlog. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. The indiepodcon.com/vlog. It's about a half hour long. Super fun. I had a lot of enjoyment getting to put this one together. And if you haven't joined us in the Facebook group, you absolutely should. We're at 600, and last time I checked, it was 699 members. It has grown exponentially since MapCon wrapped up, or MapCon 5 wrapped up, I should say, and it has been absolutely awesome. If you or someone you know wants to start a podcast, or you want to dive deep into a topic that you have a question about, go check out the How to Start Your Podcast Ultimate Guide that I wrote myself. There's like 20 plus YouTube videos in there, tutorial videos, all kinds of stuff, all baked right into the guide. Go to indiepodcon.com/SAP. And our guest tonight is here all the way from St. Louis, Missouri, which I had mentioned that I had been to twice. I didn't actually get to go in the arch, so because the line was like crazy long, and I heard it's very claustrophobic, and I decided to pass up on it. Our guest tonight is the CEO of Bonnie L. Frank Coaching and Consulting. Everybody, give it up for Bonnie Frank. Woo! How we doing tonight, Bonnie?
I'm good, thanks.
What does good feel like?
Good feels really, really good because I just had a chocolate dipped ice cream cone. And I'm really happy.
That does sound good. What's up, Lou? Glad you could join us tonight. So Bonnie, let's give people a little bit of background about yourself. How you got into coaching, consulting, what kind of coaching and consulting, and the like.
Alrighty. So I'm a former teacher and college professor of 20 years, and I turned entrepreneur overnight because I got really tired of Common Core. I loved teaching, and I love teaching, but Common Core is not for me. So I started my coaching and consulting business, and I've done that for 5 years. I built my business from scratch with live streaming. And then for the past 5 months, I've had a podcast, and that brings you to today.
That is awesome. So 5 months you've been podcasting to help grow your coaching and consulting business. Mm-hmm. And what specifically do you coach? I'm assuming you're coaching teachers.
No, I am not.
Okay. Who's your ideal client?
Absolutely not. No. I'm a business coach. And everybody said I couldn't do it because I was only a teacher, air quotes, and that I didn't know anything about business, but I did, and I do, and I'm a business coach. And so if any teachers want to go into business, that's fine. I'll be happy to help them. But no, I'm not talking about teaching. And yeah, so 95% of my clients are women. It just ends up that way. And I help people start and grow their online businesses.
That is awesome. 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 So if you have any questions for Bonnie or myself about your business and growing your business through your podcast, pop the questions in the chat. Yeah, Lou says hashtag business built on live streaming. Yeah, I mean that's essentially what I did when I left my family's business and started podcasting about a month and a half later. Was built everything around the podcast. Usually it's supposed to go the other way around. You build the business and you build the marketing plan through podcasting, or you build the blog and get the audience, start the podcast, and hashtag make $1 million. But it always happens differently for different people and the situations, and what you're good at, what you feel comfortable with is going to be different than what everybody else. Some people really feel comfortable with hacking away at the keyboard and typing lots of blogs. Some people feel comfortable talking on the mic. Some people feel comfortable in the front of the camera. Some people feel more comfortable live streaming like we're doing here. It just depends, what what lane you want to find yourself in and where your audience is, right? So how have you used podcasting to grow your business, Bonnie?
Well, I originally grew my audience with live streaming, and then I didn't work for about 2 years. I just lived off of passive income.
Mm.
And then when I went back to work, I thought, well, I could just go back to live streaming. That would be very easy. I could just walk right into that. But then I thought, okay, well, I always like a challenge. And so I had always said that you could build a very good business in front of the mic, behind the mic, in front of a camera, behind the camera, or with no mic or camera at all. Like, for example, blogging. And so I thought, well, now's a perfect time to put my money literally where my mouth is and start a podcast. So I went ahead and started that. I knew that I wanted to start a podcast for the past 6 years. I just had never done it.
Yeah, so as far as live streaming, like what were you doing, like what kind of content were you putting out there that really helped attract the clientele that you were looking for?
Well, so I started live streaming 4.5 years ago, and I've beta tested 14 different live streaming platforms. And hi, Emily. And so most of those platforms have come and gone, and most people have never heard of them before. But each of them, I was able to monetize. So I was able to build an audience and monetize that audience off of each and every platform. So when I would go live, I would talk about business. I would talk about social media. I would talk about marketing. I would talk about a business plan. I would talk about equipment. I would talk about live streaming in general and do's and don'ts. And I would also just talk about my reflections on different things that happened in the day. And to me, everything goes back to business. For me, everything is a business lesson, absolutely
Mhm.
anything and everything. So that's what I would talk about. And when I started my business, I would live stream 3 to 7 times a day, 7 days a week. So you can do the math. That's a lot of live streams.
No, it absolutely is. Well, were you funneling people to a specific product or funnel, like for one-on-one coaching or group coaching, or
Yes.
oh, okay, so
Yes,
all the
to answer
above.
your question. Yeah, so it first started out with I had group coaching, I had masterminds, and I started with that. And then I went from that to one-on-one coaching. I also, in the process, created some courses. So I sold those. And I originally built my business on Periscope, Twitter Live.
Mhm.
And so when Periscope was invented, all of the scope, so all of the live broadcasts disappeared in 24 hours. That's where
Yep.
Instagram Live got the idea. And so I took advantage of that and I gathered up my first 100 scopes. So not even first 100, actually. I went through about 400, the 100 of the best of that group. And then I whittled it down to 70 of the 70 of that 100 best. And I started a membership site, because the only way that, it's like putting your podcast episode behind a paywall. It's the same thing, because the only way they could have access to those, because Periscope deleted them automatically within 24 hours, was to go through me. And so that's how I was able to live off of passive income for 2 years. I lived off of that exact same membership site that I built with those exact same 70 videos, Periscope videos, which was then built up to, oh gosh, about 350 different products that was in the membership site. That's what let me live for a couple of years without doing anything.
That is awesome. Now, Lou has a question. Bonnie, what was the catalyst that drove you to finally launch your podcast?
Okay. Hi, Lou. Lou has known me since Periscope days, and we've never met, but hopefully we will at Podfest. What finally got me to do it was, and I was absolutely frozen. And I did an episode on this. My podcast is Business Fabulous, and episode 7 is about, literally, I was terrified to start a podcast. And I went through all of the things that I very strategically and intentionally did to get myself to push publish. And it was literally about 4 or 5 months straight of terror. It was a full body situation. It was horrible. So I had a village of podcasters behind me, some podcasting Hall of Famers who were encouraging me, some people who have known me from Periscope days who were like, just do it, do it. And we really want you to do a podcast. You can do it. I know you can. So finally I did it. And it literally took, it took a friend of mine who, she was actually one of my very first clients. And then we met for the very first time 4 years later at the Kajabi conference in April. It took her literally sitting down with me on Zoom, step by step by step, and saying, okay, now push it, do this, do that. Okay, now click this button. All right, click it, push publish. Okay, there, you published your first episode. And I was like, what? Oh my God. I freaked out. I totally freaked out. And then I found out that I wasn't even talking into my microphone during that episode. So that's where I learned that you should listen back to your episodes before you publish them. So now it's a learning tool.
Lou followed it up with, have you now scaled back your live streams in favor of the podcast? Because both are a significant time commitment in time, which I totally agree. As a person who shoots pretty much everything exclusively in video and then exports it to audio as well, every step just takes that much more time to convert. And I don't even do any editing, but like when I do video, I edit. So it if it's just audio, then it's just a stream of consciousness. But when it comes to video, like it's kind of hard to not do at least some editing to it. But yeah, how have you scaled back at all?
I have. I definitely have. I'm basically down to at least one live stream a day somewhere. So if you don't see me live stream, it doesn't mean I'm not doing it. It just means I'm probably doing it in one of my Facebook groups or one of my other groups, or with a specific group of people that you just maybe didn't see, or something like that. So at least once a day, as opposed to 3 to 7 times a day. But also, when I was doing 3 to 7 times a day, I had tried to build my business many other ways, and I did not get a paying client for the first 14 months that I was working on my business, because I was teaching myself everything. I knew nothing. My degrees are in education. I have no business background whatsoever. So a lot of people said I had no business going into business, but I did it anyway. So I figured, you know what? I have literally nothing to lose. I'm just going to go ahead and try live streaming. And if it doesn't work, then I'll try the next thing, because one of these things will work and I will be successful in business.
Now, what do you find more traction in Facebook or Twitter, LinkedIn? Like where do you find your traction at?
Well, the traction happens if you know how to leverage the platform. So it's not, everyone's like, well, where's the best place? Well, there's no best place. It's like, what's the best microphone? Well, that would depend on what you want to use, right?
Yep,
What's
absolutely.
the best running shoe? Well, that depends also. So,
Big time.
and, so that answer is kind of the same. So I went from using Periscope to using 13 other platforms, and now I'm almost exclusively on Facebook just because I don't even think about it. It's just that's the way my StreamYard and my Ecamm are set up, and
Mhm.
that's where I go. And then I can, go to my variety of different groups and things like that. I do not have LinkedIn Live yet. So when I'm
Yeah,
able
I
to get
don't
it,
either.
I will do
Or
that
we would be
too.
going on LinkedIn Live. One of the problems with LinkedIn is, yeah, I can upload video, but the problem is I can only upload 10 minutes of video. So it became a problem. Like, so when I was doing my solo episodes, I intentionally shrunk my episodes down to fit the 10-minute mark so that I could upload the LinkedIn, so I could get more traction with business owners. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I could see Facebook being a better place for female people, females who are also into business or wanting to start a business or something to that effect, because they're already on there. Like, they're like, I don't know. It just
Well, females are also on
on
LinkedIn
LinkedIn. Well,
too.
yeah, I know Karen Yankovic. I mean, shout
They're
out to
on, no,
Karen.
and it's not, I mean, Karen specializes in LinkedIn, but no, I mean, men and women are both, step into
Oh
2020,
yeah,
they're
but I'm
both
just saying, like,
on
am I going to
every
find men
platform.
on Facebook that are interested in business as much as women? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it just so happens that, I mean, look at any business, and they're not just advertising to women on Facebook, but it just so happens that LinkedIn is all about business, right? Where Facebook
Right.
is not all about business. And even though we all know Mr. Zuckerberg said family and friends and all of that, we've always used it for business. I mean, I knew that the second I was going on Periscope, I was using it for business, regardless.
Mm.
It didn't matter what type of account I had. Every live stream, I have absolutely gone on with the intention to monetize it. Everything I do, I think that way. So it doesn't really matter the gender, and it doesn't matter the platform. It matters that you know where your audience is, and you're speaking to your audience and to what your audience wants, and you're giving
Mhm.
it to them no matter where you are and how you're delivering the content.
No, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I definitely agree. I was just asking as a generalization. Now Lou asks, is there such a thing as live streaming too often, or do you subscribe to the more is better model?
That is a really good question. I don't subscribe to more is better. More of anything is not necessarily better, although more butter might be better to be, now that I think about it. But
Ice
um,
cream, more ice
it,
cream is better.
more ice cream and more chocolate. There you go. And coffee. Okay, so those things. That more is always better with those things. But those things aside, it if you have something to say of value, then say it. But just because you have access to a live streaming platform doesn't mean that you should use it, and it doesn't mean that you should start talking. So you need, and a lot of people will do that, and it's unfortunate because, and that's why that's one of the reasons why LinkedIn has pulled back. More butter is better. Thank you, Lou. That is the hashtag for the day. That's why LinkedIn has pulled back on some of the things. That's one of the reasons for the limitation of the 10 minutes of video, because they don't want it video after video after video going through the feed. They've seen how people have used and abused live streams on a variety of platforms. LinkedIn sat back and watched it all happen the same way that Zuckerberg did before he launched Facebook Live. He watched very carefully. He watched Meerkat, which is kind of gone,
Yeah,
and
meerkat.
Periscope. He watched those very, very carefully before launching Facebook Live. And he took their greatest and their best and also their mistakes to heart before launching. LinkedIn has done the same thing and now has had a plethora of platforms to really look at and analyze and to decide how they want to do it. So they didn't allow just anybody and everybody and their next door neighbor to have access to the platform. They've been rolling it out slowly over time. And they are being strategic in how those live streams should look and how they should be. And they really do want them to be more professional. Having said that, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. If you have value to give, you should give it. And it shouldn't matter what you're wearing. And it shouldn't matter if you've got pro lighting or you've got a professional background or you've got a high-end mic or whatever. It really shouldn't matter. And especially with live streaming, nobody expects live streaming audio to be perfect. Nobody does, because it's in the here and now. It's live streaming.
I would say our audio is pretty perfect here between our,
we also have 2 podcasting mics. I mean,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I was just live streaming for the first, 1,000 live streams, maybe, I had my Apple earbuds and that was my mic.
Those sound pretty good too. I mean, as long as they're not rubbing up against your shirt or anything, it's a pretty solid sound.
Right.
And it's an easy sound, right? It takes that. I think, one of the things I think people get like jumbled up on is the whole like getting the process right and like waiting until I get the process perfected before I start actually doing it versus like you just have to keep doing it. And that's the only way you get more. I mean, I know I've been in a funk myself. I haven't released a Dreamers podcast episode in several weeks now. Because I've been, focused on this show and focused on the conference, but B, just, trying to work on reimagining things. And I feel like I'm getting in that infinite loop of, is this the right move and all that versus like what I've been doing since the beginning, which is like, I do it and then I figure it out.
Right. And the problem that we come into, I think, it doesn't matter what your medium is. It doesn't matter if you're a blogger or a vlogger, a video blogger, or a live streamer, or a podcaster, or you're a book writer. It doesn't matter. Whenever there's a thing that you do, you're always going to be hesitant to make that thing go into another form because you already know what great is. You have such an understanding of great, and now you've got some skin in the game because you've already been doing that thing for a while, and people are going to have expectations of you. And that was one of the reasons why I was so terrified to start a podcast, because I'd been listening to podcasts for 6 years. I knew what good podcasts sounded like, and I knew what I wanted mine to be. And I'm a very low tech gal, even though everything I do is techie. I am low tech. I actually hate tech. So I'll do whatever I have to do to make it as easy as possible for me. And so I was really scared of that. And I knew that I didn't know how to dub in music, and I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And with live streaming, I never edited any of those 4,000 streams, none of them.
But it also I think it makes you better, right? Because it forces you to think more on your toes. And like, if you go back and rewatch it after the fact, you're like, oh, I should have thought of that. I should be able to connect the dots a lot quicker or whatever it is. Stop doing the uhs and the ahs and the, unless it's part of your shtick, you got to find what works for you and what, and even I would say asking other people that you trust that are watching it, people that you maybe have become fans of your work who aren't necessarily like your best friend or your mom or your dad, to like say, hey, like what part of this do you like, or what, and you could send out surveys and things of that nature, but like just having those couple of people that you're like, you're constantly watching my stuff, like what is it that I can do better at, or where could I tweak it that would make you feel like what would move the needle for you, and make it just that much better. Let's see. Can confirm she does hate it, Emily says.
I do hate that.
But it has to be easy, right? Like if you get to a point where your process takes way too much time and too much effort and it's too convoluted, it's like, yeah, it might be perfect, but also might be perfectly not releasing on a regular schedule or preventing you from like, yeah, but it's like going to the gym. Like, yeah, I could go to the gym, but then I like gotta go pack a bag and like put clothes on and then drive there, and it's cold, so I'm gonna have to walk through the rain to get inside, and then I'm gonna have to get back, get out of there, and then get a shower, and it's like, yeah, I could just stay here and eat like ice cream on the couch. It's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
all
that'll be
good.
good.
Yeah, I'll feel guilty later. I'll worry about that later. I don't need to worry about that right now. But the thing is you got to find what makes you feel. Like I said earlier, like you got to find what makes you feel good about doing it. Like, I mean, there was a point where I did 100 videos in a row. So I released 100 business lessons over the course of 100 days.
Mhm.
And each one was like, it was in a vlog style. And I really want to get back to that. But the time commitment it's a lot of time commitment. So I've been trying to like figure out like, okay, well, if I shoot throughout the day and then I edit in the morning at like 4 or 5 in the morning, then I can like still get to the shop at 8 and still be there for my kids when I get home at night. And then I'm not doing like all these things. Like I'm not trying to like shoot and edit and post all at once, right? Like I could shoot throughout the day, edit in the morning, and I can edit very, very, very quickly with video. I've gotten pretty good, doing things for like 100 days in a row gets you very good at something very rapidly. And then post when I get to work, because we have like a gigabit connection there. So I just like, bam, like it's just up there. So it's just like, but then it's like, oh, but I got to think of the thumbnail. And then, for YouTube and for Facebook, and then I got to upload to YouTube and I got to upload to Facebook. Now, fast connections are good. Like trying to figure out all those things to like create the path of least resistance. That's the goal. It's like, what's the path and to Anchor's credit, like they made that path of least resistance very accessible, right? Take your phone out, launch the app, hit record, start talking, boom, you're done. Like post. And you just path of least resistance. So live streaming, I think, enables you to do it so much easier, because like you said, you just open up the phone, boom, record, and we're gone. Or you open up the app here or the website here, like StreamYard, like we're using right now, and you just go. But I think one thing that got in my way, because like, I mean, I've recently rebranded my show back to Dreamers Podcast from Business with Super Joe Pardo after being that for 2 years. I feel like there's also like, and you said like, oh, your lighting shouldn't matter, your what you're wearing shouldn't matter, like all these things. But like, I feel like that got in the way. Like in my mind, all those things, it's like, oh, well, I'm trying to hit this target now of, the big bad business person. And I feel like wearing my t-shirt and jeans is not going to get, not going to get me there. And
That's
I
what
feel
Gary
like it
V
got in the
wears.
way. I'm sorry.
Gary V wears it. Zuckerberg wears it.
Yeah, no, I believe me.
Steve Jobs
I
did
say
it.
all the same things, and I still, for whatever reason, still have that block, because when I talk to certain people, they say they echo the same thing. Well, why are you not in like a button down shirt? Because that's what you're trying to accomplish. Now, when I was the Dreamers Podcast, it was all about business, but it was business in a more creative space. And that's one of the reasons I've gone back to that, and am gearing up to go back towards that, because I had a lot more, not just success in a monetary way, but I felt better about it, and I felt better about myself. And the product that I put out there, the books that I put out there, the way that I go about doing things is more me than trying to appease some person that I don't really care to, I don't care about.
That's what you have to do. If you're not, I mean, the words authentic, transparent, they're slightly overused, really overused. But it is true. If you are not true to yourself and who you are and what you're about and your values, it's going to come across, and it's going to come across through the writing, through the speaking, through, your appearances on stage, through video. It's obvious to your viewers, to your listeners, to your readers, if you're not being yourself. It is obvious. And so if you're playing a part, one can only play that part for so long. It is not sustainable. That is not a business plan, to take on a role as somebody else. You cannot sustain that. So you first have to find out, who you are and what you're about. And then you've got to know your audience. So your ideal client avatar or your ideal podcast listener, you've got to know that one person that you're speaking to. And you've got to keep speaking to them over and over and over again, every single episode or every single blog post or every single video that you put out on YouTube, or every single time you step on stage. That's who you're presenting for. That's who you're speaking to. And as long as that remains consistent and you remain consistent about who you are and what you're about, you will find success. Now, obviously, you have to be strategic about it, of course. You have to work smart or you will die from exhaustion. But you will find success if you stay with that, because that is the path to success. That is sustainable for a real business and for a real successful future. The other is not.
No, I would totally agree. And I've lived it the last 2 years. That it was a constant it was a constant mental battle, and a constant battle with friends of mine who were like, you should be dressed like this and you should be talking like this. And it's like, no, I know that, like, I'm wearing a button down shirt on my website, but that's because, like, you get dressed up for the thing. But I don't feel like I need to be dressed up every day, because I'm not going to show up to work every day, because the people that I speak to are small business owners who don't subscribe to the button down shirt corporate thing. So it's not real. Like, it's not the reality that they're living. Right. And it's not the reality that I'm living or trying to live. So that's why I'm happy to be going back to what I was doing before I decided to make that change.
And if those people, and I'm sure they're all well-meaning, because trust me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Nobody encouraged me. Not one person on the planet encouraged me to start a business. Not one. In fact, I was told over and over and over again, I would fail 100%. No one ever encouraged me, not once. So all of those people, and they're well-meaning because they want to keep you safe, because they care about you, right? So, they're telling you all these things that they think would work or they think you should do or whatever. Well, first of all, most of those people have never had a successful business, because most of the people on the planet have never had a successful business. And number two, those people are very likely not paying your bills. In which case, if they're in either one of those categories, their opinions no longer count. End of story.
So I will say this, that a handful of those people did have successful businesses.
But were they paying your bills?
No, they were
their
not.
Opinions did not
so they had to fall into both categories. They can't just do one or the other. Okay.
Nope, one or the other. The opinions, they don't count. Just because they think you should be in a button-down shirt. What? Have they met a podcaster?
I know. Believe me, I totally get it. And my point, like so my website, superjoepardo.com, right? Like, there's some people that are very adamant that they hate that name, and that are pretty close to me. And I'm like, look, the point being is that once, as my persona has grown, as the, my influence has grown, it doesn't matter. People are connecting with it. So what point does it make? What difference does it make at that? Like, at a certain point, it just becomes like, oh, well, it's Steven Tyler. He dresses like a grandma. Okay, like, that's what he does. Like, he just chooses to do that. But yet it doesn't make a difference. So my point is, like, you get to that point where it just doesn't matter, right? Because you're
Well,
doing it and you're doing it and doing it.
well, and people agonize over the name of their business or the name of their podcast or the podcast art, all of that, right? So, yes, Emily, it's 100%. And they're probably not even wearing pants. They're just not even mentioning it. So, or they are, but someone edits it in post, right? It's all the same thing. So most people just don't know. So there's no reason that you should be agonizing over all of that, because the fact of the matter is, when you first start your business, nobody knows you. So it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what the name of your business is or what the name of your podcast is, because nobody knows you have a podcast. And
Yep.
then once you grow your audience and people know, it doesn't matter, because they already know. And
Yep.
they're going to listen to it anyway, or they're going to go to your website anyway, or they're going to buy batteries in your battery store anyway. It doesn't matter what it's called. The name really
Absolutely.
doesn't matter. The name means so much more to you than to anyone else. It just needs
Absolutely.
to be called something.
Yes, yes, it does. And then was this hashtag fix in post. Well, you can't fix no pants in post.
Right.
It's been done. Like you already recorded with no pants. And by the way, speaking of as you were saying earlier, speaking of paying the bills, you should be thinking about joining us in September 24th to 26th, 2020 for Indie PodCon in Philadelphia. Well, just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, about 20 minutes from the Philadelphia airport. It's a short drive, incredible time. So many people, year after year. This is our 6th year doing it. If you haven't been, go and watch the vlog from last year or this, well, still this year, indiepodcon.com/vlog. And if you want to save 10% on your ticket while you're at it, you can go to indiepodcon.com/register and pop in IPP for a 10% discount. And I did get while you were talking, Bonnie, I was able to get the 10% off podcaster merch. Go to indiepodcon.com/shop. You can save 10% with promo code IPP. Whew. All right.
Nice.
So thank you. Let me see here. I'm just flipping through the little things here. We so we we've been talking about podcasting, live streaming, business, and how to I guess effectively brand yourself into your audience's minds, like sear them into, sear yourself into their mind. And I wanted to ask, what what's one thing that you could tell somebody that's on the fence about live streaming to get them over the like, oh no, but my hair is not right, or I don't really feel comfortable with how I look, or I'm too fat, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. What's one thing that you could tell them to get over that?
Well, let's see. I built my business when I was 50 pounds heavier, and I started in coffee shops because I didn't even have a desk at home. So, and I figured all I needed was free Wi-Fi, or all I needed was Wi-Fi and coffee, and I could run a business. And that's exactly how I started. And then the coffee shop started giving me free coffee because I would always talk about them, and I always held up my cup. And it was great. It was such a win. So it was wonderful. But you can always come up with excuses of why not, right? Why you shouldn't start, why you can't do this, why you can't try that. That you can always come up with excuses, or you could just do it. That's your choice, right? And you might not succeed out of the gate. Probably true. Okay. So then what? So you try again. I mean, if you've ever watched a baby, they don't immediately start walking, right? They have gradual steps to get to walking. And even most animals, some animals are born with the ability to walk and they somehow just know how to do that. but they don't immediately do it in a beautiful gait. They don't, if you've ever seen them. So it is, Chris Kermitzo says, start ugly, right? He's got a book, Start Ugly. Go ahead, start ugly. Because you know what? It's ugly for everybody. All of those 4,000 plus live streams that I've done, I've listened to and watched all of them at least once, every single one. Every podcast that I've produced, I've listened to many, many, many times now before, except for that first one, before publishing, many times. And that is how you get better. And I've never asked people what they thought because I am my worst critic. I am going to be more critical of myself, and everybody is, than anyone could possibly be of them. Having said that, your audience will give you feedback even when you don't ask, which is a great thing. Those are your raving fans. Those are your people who love you and believe in you and want you to succeed. They will give you the feedback. I'm a horrible podcast editor. I'm bad. I'm the only thing I'm worse at is editing videos, which is why I just simply refuse to do that. So I do edit my own podcast, and I make no bones about the fact that I do it myself so that they don't wonder who's this horrible person I'm paying to edit. Oh, it would be me. I have free labor here. So it is me. So people know when they listen to my podcast, like the editing has got to be good enough, right? It's just got to be good enough. Nobody comes to my podcast for stellar sound, for absolute pristine, whatever it is they're looking for. I don't even know what those things would be. They come for content. They come to learn how to start, grow, and scale a business. That's why they come to my podcast. And that's exactly what I deliver them. And it doesn't matter if it's live streaming or if it's podcasting or whatever your medium is, you need to know what your shtick is, and you got to stick to it and keep delivering value every single time. And you know what? If your hair's not perfect, okay. Are they there for the hair? Because unless you're doing beauty tips or hair tips, in which case your hair better be on point every single time, and your lighting really should honestly be good if that's what you're doing. But otherwise, who cares? I mean, I literally was on Periscope one day. I'll never forget. Well, it was actually more than one day, where I had a black Sharpie marker, and I was saying, I have a little bit more gray here than I'd like. Hold on a minute. And I just colored it in and smooshed it like I will do in between colorings. And I did it, on a global platform live. Who cares? People come for the content, and your audience will know you and like you and respect you for you. Not because you're trying to be some other person, in which case you better never go away from what that other person is. You got to be that other person now. You can't ever stop. That's how you have to be. I only can remember how to be me. I can't remember how to be someone else that
It's really hard.
I don't even know what I had for lunch yesterday. So I just make it easy on me. I just do me.
Yeah, well, what you had for lunch yesterday will never be on the test that you need to pass.
Well, that's a good thing, because I would not. I seriously cannot remember. Tonight's dinner was ice cream with chocolate on top.
Oh, awesome. So what would you say podcasting has done for you in the last couple months? Like, is it opened your mind up? Has it changed how you think about hosting? Has it changed, what has changed for you since starting your podcast?
So podcasting has literally changed my life in so many ways. First of all, I went to Podfest in March, and I went there before I had not launched my podcast yet. I had just told Jessica Kupferman what I wanted my podcast name to be. She was the first person I told, and I figured if she liked it, it was done. And she liked it, and it was done. That was it. That's how
Shout out to Jessica Kupferman.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, you know what? That's good enough. So that's how I started, and I had known podcasters, really most of them through live streaming. So Michael O'Neill, he has the Solopreneur Hour.
Mhm.
His podcast was one of the first ones that I'd ever listened to. And he's actually, and I told him this, he's actually the reason that I'm an entrepreneur because he made it so accessible. He made it so doable. He talked about all the different things you need to do. And he had talked about 6 years ago, I was listening to this and I was taking notes 6 years ago about all of the steps that you need to do to create a podcast. And I remembered a lot of them before I started mine. So I had kind of access to podcasters before I had ever met them at Podfest. And by going to Podfest, and that was the first conference I'd ever gone to by myself, paying for it by myself, everything on my shoulders. I'd been recently divorced, and it was I had to go a week early so I would be brave enough and be done with all the anxiety attacks before the conference actually started. Worked out well. And it allowed me to meet so many people and be to be around so many different types of podcasters and different subjects for podcasts that I didn't even know existed. So many. Everything from, the corp casters, people who like would do a podcast for Peloton or I don't know, whatever. I happen to be listening to a Netflix podcast and loving it on The Crown. Loving it. I didn't even know that Netflix had podcasts until I heard Elsie Escobar talk about it one day. And I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if there's one on The Crown. Well, there is. So podcasting has opened my mind and opened my entire existence up in so many different ways and has really allowed me to 100% again be myself and step in as an authority in my field in terms of social media and marketing and live streaming into another environment, which is podcasting. So I'm not the expert podcaster. Hey, I make no bones about that. Absolutely none. I went through 3 mics in my first 3 episodes, and it sounds exactly like that. Listen to them. It's great. The first one, I'm talking directly into my MacBook. Mhm. So if you ever wonder what that sounds like, that was my episode 1. So it's opened my entire being up in a lot of different ways, and it's allowed me to, as I've always said, literally get into the head of my audience. So now my audience, instead of watching me on live stream where they've got to be right there with their cell phone or their tablet or their laptop, they've got to be right there. Live streaming is not really very mobile. And you should be looking at the stream. Otherwise, why is somebody live streaming it, right? Um, so that's very different from podcasting where somebody's always going to be multitasking. You're always going to be doing something while, even if it's just driving, whatever, you're always going to be doing something while you're listening to podcasts. But at the same time, that person, your audience literally has you in their head. They literally have you in their head. And it's a very different type of an intimate relationship that you're having with people you may never know, with people you may never meet all over the world, with an audience that can only be limited by the number of people on the planet, which I find very exciting and also terrifying all at the same time. So it's allowed all of those things to happen. There's no ceiling. There's absolutely no ceiling to how big somebody's business could be, to how big somebody's podcast could be, and also to the reach that they could have, and to the difference that they could make with people. Once again, that they may never see, and the difference that they may never know. But it is absolutely possible every single episode.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I'd agree with all that. I think it's I think it's also great that we get to own our own feed, our own, destiny as far as I mean, I don't know how yours is hosted, but depending how it's hosted, you're not held back by the gatekeepers.
Mhm.
Because you have, as long as you have it on your own website, you have your own domain, you're
Yep.
hosting your RSS feed. Um, through reputable podcast hosts, like you're controlling it. There is no like YouTube where they could be like, it's off, got
Yeah.
Thanos snap gone. It's really all on you to drive traffic to it, to monetize it how you see fit, how to say what you want to say, and people are able to go and consume that content regardless of you know Apple saying, "Oh yeah, no, we don't like what you're saying, so we're just going to take you off our feed." Like, cool, no problem. People can use their own RSS feed. People really want your content. If other people really feel strongly enough about it, they will find a way to consume your content, whether it's just going straight to your website and watching or listening right off the website, or subscribing to the RSS feed with their own podcast app.
Mhm.
That's it's you are in control of your destiny. And I think that's a really powerful tool. That not everybody understands, and not everybody is not right for necessarily everybody, right? Because a lot of people want to be a part of, like, oh, I'm part of the YouTube community, oh, I'm part of the Facebook community, oh, I'm part of the, and they're going to help promote my thing the way they see fit, and I'm okay with that. But I think it's just as long as you're, excuse me, comfortable with the unknown, then podcasting is, excuse me, perfect for that opportunity, for you to control all of that. So Bonnie, before we wrap up here, is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave our guests with? Our
Wow.
guests, our audience with. Sorry, I told you
Whoever,
I was tired before
whomever.
I started.
Fix it in post, something or other.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, first of all, I mean, I would love to say that podcasters are an interesting bunch because for whatever reason, they think that monetizing their podcast means that they have sponsors and or Patreon. And I've monetized my podcast many times over, and I don't have sponsors and I don't have Patreon. And I don't plan on having Patreon, and sponsors, I know logically will not come for a while. I've done 25 episodes so far. Woo! So, yeah, I don't expect that to be coming anytime soon. And it's fine if it never comes. I'm totally okay with that because I know lots of other ways to monetize my podcast. And so, in my mind, and people podcast for a whole bunch of different reasons, right? For lots of different reasons. And a lot of people are hobby podcasters or hobbyists or whatever. They don't plan on making money. However, my thing is, if you're going to be spending all that time podcasting, because it does take time, the actual talking into the mic is probably the least amount of time that you spend in terms of the whole process. And so my thing is, if you're going to be doing it anyway, why not make money? And it doesn't matter what your topic is. It doesn't matter who your audience is. It absolutely does not matter. There are absolutely unlimited ways that you could make money from your podcast. Every single podcast. So I don't know why people aren't, but if they aren't, they can. I'll be more than happy to help them do that. Um, and whether it's podcasting or live streaming or YouTubing or blogging, any of it, you don't have to do any of it ever. I'm the only live streaming expert who's ever said, as far as I know, who's ever said live streaming's not for everybody. And I said that from the beginning because it's not. You don't have to be in front of the camera and you don't have to be behind a mic. Nobody has to do anything they don't want to. I don't know if anyone ever told you this. Maybe your parents told you the opposite. I know mine did. So, but I am here to tell everybody that you don't have to do anything you don't want to. You don't have to podcast if you don't want to. You don't have to edit your podcast if you don't want to. You don't have to have stellar light if you don't want to. You don't have to ever be in front of the camera if you don't want to. Don't do it. It's okay. But if you have great content, you will have great success. You've got to have strategy behind it, and you need to monetize accordingly. But if you've got good stuff to say it. Doesn't matter the medium that you're using.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Bonnie, thank you so much for taking the time tonight to discuss live streaming, podcasting, business building, and encouragement above all else, and motivation. I know I feel more motivated to get out of my funk and get back to creating. I mean, I've been feeling that way. I just haven't. I mean, I haven't actually. My son was sick twice in November. We're in the hospital twice in November, and and then I got sick this last week. So I haven't done as much as I would normally would prefer to do. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to creating and getting back to creating as well. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have been reaching out to me saying, hey, where can I find those episodes, the new stuff, and where's it at? And it's yes, I know. Well, I'm still only one person. I might be Super Joe Pardo, but I still am only one person.
Okay, so my question would be, do they have kids?
Let me think. One of them, no.
If they have kids, they totally
not young
get
kids
it.
that are
And
1
if
and
they
3.
don't, they won't.
No, I know. And that's what a lot of people try to remind me of. You got 2 kids and it's just so much. I mean, that's one of the reasons why even with going back to doing the show as the Dreamers podcast, Dreamers podcast primarily was a interview show. Mm-hmm. The amount of time I have to conduct said interviews is very slim. Mm-hmm. In fact, I fight tooth and nail to make this time to do this show with a guest host. And one of the reasons it was so easy is because it's podcasters. I love talking podcasting. I love talking tech. I love talking business. And the other reason is when I put out the link for people to sign up to come join me and come hang out on a Wednesday night at 8:00 Eastern every Wednesday. You can come check the show out on Facebook Live in the Facebook group. You can join us at indiepodcon.com/group. The reason is because it filled up so quick. I only made up until May available, and every single week that was available is filled up, except for I think there's 3 slots left in May. So if you want to jump in and be a guest, you can go to indiepodcon.com/guest. You like how I'm spitting that whole outro here? So yeah, so it's one of those things that just trying to make the time and make it so regimented has really helped me, especially with this show. Whereas with Dreamers podcast, if I would love to just go back to doing a daily show, absolutely. And I'm trying to figure out how I could fit that into my life. Well, part of that is I have to make sure I wake up at between 4 and 5 a.m. every single day to make that happen, because I got to have that hour to edit to edit the video together and get it shipped off. So it's those things that I'm just I'm trying to figure out, can I get back to doing it? And I was on that path, and then we went into the hospital last week, and it was and then we got out of the hospital, and then I was sick, and then Thanksgiving, and then we went on a trip with the family down to DC and Baltimore. It's just I got to be able to get navigate around that and get out in front of it before and I guess for myself, I don't want to commit to something I'm not going to be able to do, right? So I don't want to put it out there here's my flag, I'm going back to daily, and then 4 days in, 10 days in, I'm already starting to fall behind. So I think I think it's just a matter of of figuring out what's going to work for you. As you said, you don't have to do live streaming, you don't have to do the Facebook, you don't have, like, I mean, I would recommend finding just one thing that you enjoy doing and then getting really, really good at that, rather than being like, well, I got to have the Instagram, so I got to do Instagram live. And the Gary V, like, you got to be everywhere. Like, that sounds great when you have a team of people standing around you with, like, okay, oh, you're doing this thing with, let me take some pictures, okay, I'm posting to Instagram as if I'm at Gary V. Like, cool, but like, not everybody has that spouse, or they have 2 kids who are under the age of 4, and it's like, even trying to like get, take video and stuff is a pain, because now that Dom's a lot more mobile, the 1-year-old is almost 2, holding my camera in my hand and trying to ring him in is a lot harder. So I'm like, I got there's like a sling behind my head over here that I'm going to try to like connect it to that and vlog with that, because I can like put the Manfrotto mini tripod into that, and at least then I can like sling it to my side, so I have 2 hands, because it's getting more like, it's getting harder and harder to now, because before, when like you just hold him in one arm, I always had one hand free, like no big deal. Now he's so much more mobile, you need 2 arms to ring him in. And then Ava, she's almost 4 and she wants to run off and do her own thing. So, I gotta find what's going to work for me, so I can get it back to daily. Because I love, like you said, having something to say. And I feel like the more it's like word vomit, right? The more you say, the more you're going to have to say, because the more thoughts are going to come to your mind, the more dots you're going to connect, and the more you're going to want to like put it out there. And when I feel like when I don't have that outlet, I feel like I just don't feel myself as much as I did before. So
I totally get that. I totally do. But now, there are so many more, there are apps, and there are different mics, and there are attachments, and there are, different types of tripods and things that, that keep the camera steady, right?
Yep.
There are so many more ways to do, if you want to live stream, or you want to do video, or you want to live stream or video your podcast, however you
Yeah.
want to do that. If you want to have something that involves a camera, there are so many more ways now that you can do that with podcasting that is mobile, literally mobile, where you've got it and you're working with your phone. You don't need, any of these other things. You don't need your mic on a boom arm, because you're carrying your handheld mic and it's into your phone, and you've got Boss Jock Jr., or you've got whatever it is you've got, and you're podcasting that way, and the sound can be great. And you can still do your editing, and you can still pipe in the music if you want to have music and be all pro that way. What you could do all of that and do it mobile. You can absolutely do it that way. So it can, whether it's podcasting or any of the types of ways of being visible and getting your name out there that we've talked about, you can do all of it and fit it into your life. Every single thing. It doesn't matter what your thing is. You can absolutely fit it into your life. You should not be fitting your life into it. That is the opposite of having a life worth living. You should be fitting whatever it is into your life.
Yep. I totally agree. And I would say, yeah, I mean, you can edit video on your phone. I don't know that I would recommend it. At that point, I would say just live stream, and then worry about taking that live stream and converting it after the fact. But just because of the sake of trying to shoot video and edit on a phone, it just, I mean, you can get really fast at it, but like, it's just not the fast. It's just not the fastest way of going about doing it. But yeah, so anyway, everybody, like I said before, you should totally join us September 24th to the 26th, get 10% off with offer code IPP at indiepodcon.com/register. If you haven't been to the merch shop yet, you should totally drop in indiepodcon.com/shop, save 10% with offer code IPP. We had a few people take up on the Black Friday 25% off sale. It was pretty awesome seeing a bunch of merch go out at once because they took a greatly advantage of that discount. Which it was probably almost too much of a discount, honestly, because I didn't make much money at that point. By the time the printer and everything got paid, but it's okay. I wanted the stuff to get out there and people to have them.
Well,
anyway,
then in that case, you and I need to talk about how you can raise your margins.
Oh
I
no,
think your margins were too low.
Well, the margins are good. It's just when you take the 25% off and you shipping is $5 like flat rate, it doesn't work. So anyway, if you or somebody you know wants to start a podcast, go to indiepodcon.com/SAP and drop in there. There's tons of videos integrated right in. It takes you step to step from conceptualizing your podcast. Like 2/3, if you're worried about the tech end of it, 2/3 of this thing has nothing to do with tech. It's all about like getting the focus and the audience and who is this for, and what your niche is going to be, and like almost every step of the way has a YouTube video with a talk from you. Most of them are from MapCon, but some of them are podcast episodes like this one, which this episode will probably actually get injected in there as well, because there is just so much great value that Bonnie brought to the table here. Everybody, I hope you all have a great week, and shout out to Lou. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for all the great comments, and Lou, thank you for joining every Wednesday night and listening. It has been a pleasure serving all of you, and I hope you all have a great week. I hope everybody gets their Christmas shopping, or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa shopping or Boxing Day shopping, whatever thing you got going on. I hope that you're able to get all that shopping done and safely. I don't think, did anybody get mobbed this week or crushed this past weekend?
I did it cyber shopping. I was good.
Have you seen so not to go on the, but like Cyber Monday has now become Cyber Week. I've seen it in 2 places.
Yes. I've seen it in more. Yeah. Oh, all of a sudden I've got so many emails in my inbox. I've never done this before. And I'm like, I bet you have. Oh, I'm extending it. I'm extending it to Tuesday. And then they're like, oh, we forgot. We're extending it to Wednesday. I'm like, oh my God.
You know what's funny is, and to speak to the business end of it, I don't want to put them on blast, but there was a company that sent out an email saying, "Oh, here's our Cyber Monday deal," and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, I'll buy a year of that service for 25 or 30% off or whatever it is." Like, yeah, cool. So I click on the link and it goes to a 404 link. So I write back to their, because they sent from their support link, like their support email, send back. They don't get back to me for like 6 hours, and they said, "Oh, sorry, that deal's already expired." And I wrote back and said, "What the hell? I sent you an email 6 hours ago asking about this, and now you're just saying, oh well, like what the hell is that?" So then they send an email back almost right back and said, "Oh, we're sorry, we extended this to Thursday, no problem, like you can take it." So then I slept on it till Tuesday. I go click the link and it says, "Oh, order's expired." And I was like, you know what, screw them. Like I don't need their service anyway. I'm not giving them my 30 some dollars for a year. Well, normally it's like 50 some dollars for the year, but it's a great product, but I'm
Black
done.
Friday and all of that. People feel so compelled as a business person. Oh, you don't have a Black Friday special? You have to have a Black. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't ever have to have any special ever in your whole life. Hello, Birkin bags. They don't go on sale. They just don't. In fact, they are always in scarcity. And you're lucky if you get one. You have to apply. So You don't have to do that. And most of the people who buy things on a Black Friday special or a small Saturday or a whatever it is, Sunday or a Cyber Monday, now Tuesday, now Wednesday, now probably tomorrow, whatever it is, they don't tend to buy things that they wouldn't have already bought anyway. They don't just jump to buy something they never thought of buying because it's now 25% off.
I mean, if it was like 70 or 80% off, then like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, it becomes an impulse buy where it's like, yeah, I'll spend 10, 20, 30, $50 on something that would normally be $500. Yeah, that
That's a
sounds too good to be true. I'll bite.
exactly.
And as Emily says, especially as a service business, don't discount your time. Could
Yep.
not agree more with that. That's for darn sure. That is, too precious to do that. All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. Everybody have a great week. My guest next week. I always keep forgetting to do this right up until the end here. My guest next week is Heather Warburton, who came to MapCon 5 almost like on a last minute thing. I'm looking forward to this conversation because she is involved with a whole bunch of activist stuff with her podcasting and like journalism. So I'm really looking forward to get that aspect into the show. So if you're into activism and that type of thing, I think it should be an interesting listen or watch. So we'll be back on next Wednesday, the 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a great week. Thanks again, Bonnie. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.